Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to the Loft. Tonight I got my very special friend, Jackie Margolis. Jackie is very well known in theater and is an actor. Welcome to the show, Jackie.
Oh, thank you. It's fun. Looking
So,
forward to it.
so Jackie, me and you know each other over the last 11 years from the New York City theater scene. We've done
Right.
about four projects together. One of them was actually one of my projects that you were in. Before we dive into all that, could you just tell me where you were born and raised?
Oh, I was born actually in an actor's paradise these days, Sunnyside, Long Island.
Oh,
And I lived there until I was 13. And then we moved to Far Rockaway, which I truly, truly loved. And
oh,
we lived
nice.
close to the beach, and that was nice.
Yeah. What kind of kid were you, Jackie? Were you a creative kid?
Yeah, I think so. I was always very, very busy doing things.
Mm-hmm.
It, actually, I used to love to ice skate, and we had
Mm-hmm.
a very, very bumpy hill in Sunnyside on 49th Street. Some people might still be there, and I would take my sled and I would bump down the hill in the snow. I had a dance school across the street, and I studied ballet, and I
Mm-hmm.
studied tap, and I studied acrobatics. And my mother claims I studied execution, elocution, but I don't remember that. Right? Yeah, I was very busy, but I was also busy. I loved to color, and I used to fill these Walt Disney rubber characters with plaster, and paint
Uh-huh.
them and stuff. I
Yeah.
was just, into stuff, making things, weavings, busy, 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 like children are these days, with their
Yeah.
Legos. We were like that, and
Yeah.
other tools, yeah.
So, Jackie, who were some of your influences growing up? Some of your actor influences?
Well, the funny part of it is that living in Sunnyside, I lived one block from the Sunnyside Theater,
Mm-hmm.
and movies were very, very cheap. And if I had extra change in my pocket, and my parents would have been really mad, I
Mm-hmm.
would go and get myself a movie after school. And we would have things that were like, there's no tomorrow. And you
Mm-hmm.
would see an Italian, it was Italian woman. I remember they had hair under their arms. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
what's this?
Yeah.
Or you would see, oh, what am I think we even saw two women with Sophia Loren, but there was a lot of during the afternoon foreign movies. On
Okay.
weekends, they would be cartoons, Pinocchio, and I love things like that.
Yeah.
But during the week, I got a taste of, a lot of foreign stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think I remember thinking, I thought I saw in my imagination 8.5 on TV, and everybody says I'm crazy, but I remember Guillermo Messina in that cart.
Yeah.
But I might not have, but it might have been, a rendition of it somebody else was doing, because I think it was before 8.5 came out.
Okay.
But I mean, those were some of the people that influenced me. As later on, it would be musicals like Carousel and things like that.
Okay.
But you know, Hemingway, what was it? Uh, Jennifer Jones, Rock Hudson,
Yeah.
people, Doris Day, all those important people, Elizabeth Taylor,
Yeah. Yeah.
all
So,
those dreamy people.
yeah. So, what got you started in theater, Jackie? What got you your start?
Well, actually, my mother was a performer. She was a jazz tap on so dancer with Earl Carroll, and she was
Oh,
part of
wow.
a tap, a three-part tap group,
Uh-huh.
a man and two women. So, I kind of had that kind of energy. My grandmother played the piano, so I would sing. It was just like something, a lot of children just like to perform. I would walk into a club after school. I'd wander around, and there would be like a door open. It could have been the Elks Club for all I knew, and they had a jukebox, and a juke, what is it, jukebox,
Yeah.
Juke jukebox. And I
Yeah.
would get up on stage with nobody around, and I begin to sing, and I
Oh,
would
wow.
dance.
Yeah.
I would just, I was just that kind of. I had no brothers or sisters, and I think I would just act things out, and being
Okay.
alone and a loner. There weren't that many children on the streets in Sunnyside when I was young.
Okay.
It was just. I have to admit, it was like after the war and things. There was a lot of heaviness going on, and
Okay.
there were very, very few families,
Mm-hmm.
out on the street except shopping or something, and it was heavy.
Wow.
And so I think I kind of wandered around and did things by myself,
Okay. All
right?
right. Jackie, when you get a new role, could you tell us a little bit about your process of, studying and trying to figure out that role?
The first thing I do is, of course, I read the play and I keep
Yeah.
looking for spots. And sometimes, well, I also, nowadays we have computers. I also have a set of encyclopedias that I used to use before my computer. But
Hmm.
I look up history, when
Yeah.
the play took place, who these people are, if they have anything historical in them.
Hmm.
I just did a reading and I was Saint Corona. And there was
Okay.
actually, a Saint Corona at time, but she was uh, more of a saint of people who were looking for fortune or something. But nowadays
Yeah.
we look at her as somebody who's people are looking for. Is there any way to heal?
Okay.
So I looked up Saint Corona and I saw they're presenting all her statues and everything. They're refurbishing everything that was once her in
Yeah.
places like Italy and places like Germany. So
Okay.
that's the one thing. I look up history. And then after I read the play, I look for chunks. Is there a monologue in the play? And I begin to study the monologue, which will tell me
Okay.
something about the person.
Okay.
So that's about the way. And then I go back to the beginning and start trying to see, what's going on in the play. But those are the values I look for. When is it taking place and who in it has importance. Stuff like that.
Could you tell me, Jackie, where you have studied acting?
I studied with Stella Adler, actually.
Okay.
I
Wow.
went with her for about 2.5 years. I did
Wow.
study with her. And
Yeah.
then after Stella Adler, I kind of bounced around. And then when I was a bit older, I went to Lee Strasberg, but I didn't have enough money. I could only stay for a while, but I
Hmm.
studied with Ed Covens. So I did a lot of sensory work. I did
Yeah.
very little with Lee aside from, because it was a busy class. I
Yeah.
didn't really get to do scenes with him. Oh, we did actually. We took a play, we took a story, and I did a story with my husband, Mark,
Hmm.
and we did something from that.
Okay.
But I only spent 6 months there, so I did sensory work and I did the exercises and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I stayed
Jack.
with Marsha Halfer a
Yeah.
few years ago and
Hmm.
did a lot of sensory work and a lot of scenes, and of course Austin Pendleton. But otherwise, I haven't studied in a long time.
Okay. Jackie, could you tell me some of your favorite projects that you have been in? Could you tell me some of those?
Well, actually, the funny part of it is with you people in Sean when we did Iceman Cometh, even though I had a small part, that
Yeah.
was fun. And I also did the Grandma and Ellie Mercenary, and I did a couple of really enormous, like a giant musical at theater for the new city called The Golden Bear, taking from Jews Without Money, and it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of plays at with Eugenia Massister, who passed on, and did a couple of plays at Theater of New City.
Hmm.
And I said Vasa Nova. I did that. I like that. And I worked
Hmm.
with Lee Wilhelm for a long time, and I did a lot of plays with him.
Hmm.
So I mean, I've had a lot of favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you, Jackie, could you tell me some of your favorite directors you've worked with?
Who have been my favorite directors that I've worked with? But Lee Wilhelm was one of them. Marsha Halfrack was really, I did a couple of plays with her.
Okay.
Um, and what was she called? I think she was called the Seventh Sign Theater or something. I did a couple of plays with her. I also did a film with Jacqueline Bisset. I have a tiny featured role there, and it was an Israeli director. He was really, really fine because he let me do anything I want, and
Oh,
and I
okay.
had a big fight.
Wow. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Uh, what else? I did another film which I think I just had to direct myself. It
Uh-huh.
was about a suicide hotline, and they put it on the shelf. But I had an enormous role with Mark Margolis and John Plota, who passed away, and Ola Krupa. There were a lot of well-known actors in it. And they
Yeah.
brought in people from Hollywood, but the person who directed it, produced it, writer, whatever, put it on the shelf after spending millions of dollars editing and producing it and everything like that.
Wow. Wow.
So, but those things happen all the time. I mean, I don't think I did soaps when I was younger, but I couldn't even remember the names. I remember I worked with the man who played Ryan in Ryan's Hope, and we did a stage reading together where I played the wife of, I played the mother of, what's his name, Oswald, Lee Harvey
Okay.
Oswald,
Wow.
and he was a prosecutor, right?
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of stuff like that. I can't even like think of, over the years, it's just things keep on, coming to me. Something will happen when I least expect it.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you tell me some of your favorite theaters that you have been in, or even have seen a show in, or something like that? What are some of your favorite theaters?
Oh, what are my favorite theaters? Well, I like Signature Theater. I saw John this past year, and I absolutely loved it with
Mm-hmm.
Lois Smith, and she was marvelous. The whole cast was really, really marvelous. That's one of my favorites. And I got a classic stage. I became a member. I had a student card, so I became a student member there. And I
Mm-hmm.
love their productions. They're not always fabulous, but there's always an extravaganza, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Uh, I belong to TGF, so I get to see some Broadway shows. I like Rosemary Harris. Where did I see her? In Mecca? I saw her in a South African play a couple of years ago. I love that. I like
Mm-hmm.
Austin Pendleton. I pretty much go see everything he directs or acts in.
Okay.
He's always doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jackie, now I have a little bit of a serious question. I mean, with these difficult times with the pandemic and everything that was happening, where did you keep where did you find your motivation to keep acting? I know you did some projects, via Zoom and virtual stuff. Where did you find your motivation to keep doing this?
Well, I am a part of Instant Shakespeare, and we
Mm-hmm.
decided to hit Zoom, and we're on YouTube, and
Okay.
we just keep doing readings of Shakespearean plays, or
Mm-hmm.
we've done Chekhov plays. We just keep doing something.
Okay.
So I've also playmastered a play. I did Merry Wives of Windsor, and I select
Mm-hmm.
actors to do different characters in it.
Yeah.
What else? I did something, the Noble Kinswoman, Noble Kinsman. I did playmastered that. Uh, I mean, people are always playmastering and asking actors. Like next week, I'm going to be in the Scottish play, and I have a couple of parts in that, like
Okay.
Hecate, and Lady Macduff, where I get killed, you
Okay.
know, things like that. Also, play readings with friends are part of that. They're on Facebook, and if you have a script, you can submit it to them, and you can submit your picture and resume to them.
Yeah.
So I've done quite a few readings of new plays with them. I just did one like yesterday
Okay.
about the coronavirus. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the only way. And I also do. I belong to Silver Slippers, and I do exercise classes with them. I
Mm-hmm.
do a ballet class with Perry Dancer, Broadway Dance Center. I keep myself physical through Zoom. I'm going nuts with Zoom, but what
Yeah.
else are you going to do?
Yeah. Now,
So,
Jackie, where do you see the theater scene, the theater world? Where do you see it headed? Do you see it going more virtual now, or do you think we're going to be back in the theaters?
I think we're going to mix, because I think in some
Okay.
ways it's given a lot of work to people who did not work all the time.
Yeah.
Zoom helps. A lot of new plays that don't get produced because it's too expensive are
Yeah.
being read and being seen. People are reading it. People are even working without scripts. Creek, who I worked with for a long time, every few
Okay.
months puts on a few one-act plays, and they're
Mm-hmm.
off page. Um, so that's kind of what's happening. I think we'll be moving back to the theater, but that's an expensive extravagance. I mean, you really have to be able to afford the rent there because you can't fill it up. They have to have spaces there.
Yeah.
So it will go on, but what are you going to do? Every 6 seats, there'll be a couple or one person or a family.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and the landlords are going to have to drop rents, and they're going to already screaming. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
slow, very slow. The out of town theaters might do a little better because they have larger theaters, more property, cheaper rents.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, with Jackie, since you have done a lot of theater, I have to ask: has anything ever outrageous or unexpected ever happened while you were on stage with either an actor or an audience member? I know when you were in my production, we had a little bit of an incident where the actor forgot his lines on stage, and me and you were standing right next to each other, and we gave him a couple cues, and then he remembered his stuff. Do you have any kind of
Right.
story? Do you have any kind of story for us? Yeah.
He even I remember that it even made me feel like I got lost there. That was
Yeah.
a horrendous feeling. That was really very. We had full houses too.
Yeah, we did.
For a little theater. I remember we had a lot of people coming into it. What
Yeah.
kind of a ride? When we all did the Iceman Comet, I remember he was talking about champagne and he forgot to bring the champagne.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Carol and I carried on the champagne. We kind of snuck it in. We think we left it backstage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Silly things like that have happened. Have anything else happened? I've had people drop lines. I did a play at Love Creek where I had an enormous monologue, and this was she was a new actor who they used, but she only had a few lines in it, and she was in between when I was speaking. She had to feed me lines, and she would forget to feed me. She just forgot.
Yeah.
So here I'd be like, "Where am I?" And I was like.
Yeah.
I don't know, so I'd have to keep going. And I remember later the director said to me, "You dropped lines." And I said, "No," I said, "I had to jump around to see where I was in order to make it continue because she did not feed me." And if somebody doesn't feed you a line or improvise, if they forget, it's good to learn to parallel your lines and to learn how to improvise so that even if you drop your lines, you have some kind of a sense of what's going on. So both for yourself, if you've lost your lines, you can somehow find, well, where am I? I was talking about this, make them up.
Yeah.
Or if the other person drops the lines, find some way that you can like override it. It's tough when people drop lines, even experienced people do.
Yeah.
So I've had that problem and being falsely accused, I felt. But,
yeah.
right.
So Jackie, where can we check some of your stuff out? Where can we check you out on social media? Where can we find some of your stuff?
Well, right now you'll find me a lot on, if you go to YouTube and you see Instant Shakespeare, you'll see a lot of different things that Instant Shakespeare has put on and that I'm in. Play readings with friends are not putting them up right now. I did the last Cranky. I don't know if that's live. There's a couple of videos of me from Taja's Theater or TA something. I forgot the name of it. See, I'm getting forgetful, right? There's a couple of videos of that on. I don't have, actually, I never bothered to build a web. I didn't realize I would need it. I'm like on Actors Access. I'm with Casting Works, I'm about to redo some things and put some monologues on these places. But I don't have a regular web. I never just got into that, unfortunately. I should. I'm just not a good businesswoman that way. You have to really be, computer smart. And I'm not smart enough. Not yet. I might never.
Well, you're on Zoom with me, so you're pretty computer savvy. To be on Zoom with me. On a different note, Jackie, could you just tell us about some of your new projects, some of the things you've done recently?
Oh, right now, what am I doing right now? I'm actually not doing anything right now, but as I said, readings, which you can find with Instant Shakespeare and YouTube. I'm not really doing anything. My husband is in Better Call Saul, and I've been kind of putting off because he has an opportunity to do a few scenes in New Mexico. And I was sort of looking forward to getting out of town and just going to New Mexico. He has some scenes in April, some in May, some in June. They kind of bounced him around there. So I just really haven't submitted to anything where I could be, have a project. But you can catch Mark as this character there, right?
Okay, all right.
Right.
Now, Jackie, I just have kind of like a question I ask everybody. What advice would you give a young person today starting out in the theater world or just starting out in show business? What advice would you give a young person, maybe a female? What advice would you give them today, right now?
Well, one thing, to find yourself a really, really good acting class is one thing. Shop around and look to see, who you really like and who gives you a real technique. Because a lot of people, like, Uta Hagen's technique is kind of an interesting technique to study. She has a lot of exercises, and that's very, very good for your imagination. But search around and see what you like. There's so many acting schools around, and you can audit them. But you really should have You know, a lot of people are natural actors. Yes, I agree with
Yeah.
that. But there comes a point where being a natural actor doesn't help you to answer questions, which you, in your training, you learn to answer. As I said, I look to history, I look at pictures, I look at all kinds of, sometimes you just can't speak. Sometimes you have to really like know, your mind has to know what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that most important thing is to really train yourself and train yourself as a singer too, because it helps your voice. You know,
Yeah.
make sure you have a voice. And I
Yeah.
think singing is one of the best. You know, find HB has really good singing teachers. I like this Martha Bernard. I think she's wonderful for a new actor. She has where she does gets everybody to move around and all
Yeah.
kinds of sounds and things.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to do dance. You have to be well rounded.
Yeah.
Well, most
Yeah.
people go to college. If you go to college, you get a lot of that in college. But when you come out, it's still good to take scene classes and
Yeah.
exercise and stuff. You
Yeah.
really have to keep up. Because if you're lucky, you can sometimes get a job immediately that takes you. But if you're not, that hasn't happened yet, right?
Hmm.
It's best to keep at it.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice, Jackie. Before we wrap everything up, and I was just wondering, do you have any final thoughts that you would like our audience to know about you or your career or anything like that?
Oh, not really. You know, I hope I keep working.
Yeah.
It's well, everybody says it get. I don't know if it gets harder when you. I mean, there are old parts around, but there's also a lot of older people. Filling the parts. You know, you're lucky
Hmm.
sometimes if somebody says, "Oh, that woman is right for a particular part." And I think you
Yeah.
have to put yourself on all these casting things and do
Yeah.
a couple of little monologues so that when people see a picture they like, they can also see a little monologue and get a sense of what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think you have to do that.
Okay. Well,
So that's what
Jackie.
I
Yeah.
foresee for me, of
Yeah.
pulling it together in the next few months and putting myself out there that way so I can submit myself. I haven't been, as I said, I haven't been doing it. I
Yeah.
have to do
Well,
it again.
well, Jackie, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for coming on the Loft. Guys, you could check Jackie out in the New York theater scene. You could also check her out on Facebook. Remember to check me out on Instagram. And don't forget to hit like and click subscribe. Give us a big thumbs up. Again, Jackie, thank you so much for
Well,
stopping
thank
by
you.
the
It was
Loft.
fun. It
Yeah.
was fun.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jackie. All right, guys. Next week is Easter, so we will not be here, but we will be here the following week, and we'll have a very special guest for you. So tune in, guys. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.